Hi, Junaid. Welcome to the Power Talk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining us today. Before we dive into a conversation, can you tell us a bit about your professional background and what got you into the industry of building and creating home studios?
Hey, Navin. First of all, super excited to be here and an honor to come on and talk on the Power Talk Show. I come from a design background, graphic design, web design, and then it all transitioned to application design and enterprise level applications. And as I was building these systems, it was a lot of fun. I've done it over 20 plus years. But during the pandemic, I was working from home. And prior to that, about 3 years prior to that, I had started my podcasting journey. Just a way to, again, create content, to share my journey, share my stories, and document a journey that I was on myself as a human being, as somebody who's a father, a professional, and somebody who loves a ton of hobbies. So I started documenting that journey as somebody who is into beekeeping, cycling, photography, video production, what have you. And as I'm creating these episodes and these podcast episodes, documenting my own journey, a thought occurred to me and I started thinking, hey, I wonder if there are other people doing the same thing that I am. So I started interviewing them and bringing them into my world and asking them questions on how did they do it, what inspired them to get started, kind of doing what we're doing here, capturing the origin story of these amazing humans. And as they shared, through lines started showing up. So I've been doing it for about 7 years, recording over 800 podcast episodes, interviewing guests on the show. And as I'm learning through this, one thing that occurred is we were all stuck in our homes. And as we're stuck in our homes, I started noticing, hey, what am I looking like on camera? And I started putting in my expertise as a photographer, as a filmmaker into my own studio. How do I set the stage so that I show up as a professional that I see on other shows, TV shows and whatnot? And as I started tweaking my setup and adding the lighting, adding the audio treatment and whatnot, people started asking me, hey, like, Junaid, we're both using Zoom. We're all using Zoom here, but why is your video so clear and concise and sharp? And your audio is undeniably amazing. And they kept asking me this question. I was like, well, I'm doing this. I have this camera. I have this lighting. I have this microphone. I've done this treatment in my room. And as I kept sharing about what I did, they started asking me, can you guide me? Can you tell me what I can do to make my setup look better? And as they started asking, I started putting this thing together of helping people set up their spaces. Now, as I did more of it, the more confidence that I gained, the more concise that I got with my helping them. And now I can see or listen to a video of anybody and I can tell them exactly what they need to change to stand out and be professional and show up consistently that same way. Because here's the fact, right? As entrepreneurs, this is our first impression on camera. This is our first impression to any place that we might be creating content, may it be YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever it is. If somebody new is looking at our content, this is our first impression. And as human beings, we are unfortunately very judgmental, right? We judge the book by its cover. How pretty is this book? Right? Oh, wow, this looks really good. I want to open it up and I'll read it a little. Same with movies. They have these amazing looking posters. And when that poster pulls in a person, they're like, oh my God, I want to go check out the trailer for this poster. And when you watch the trailer, it intrigues you even more. And then you go and start watching, you set the date to go watch that movie. And the same thing happens, right? So we're using that same philosophy, the same ability of our human nature to bring in the people that are then going to relate with us, connect with us on a deeper level. So that's how the journey started, and that's where it is going now. So to date, I've built several studios all over the US and several consoles all over the world. And we're also building local in-person studios so that small businesses and professionals can come and show up and capture the conversations, capture the stories. Because here's a fact, right, Navin? We all have stories. We all have our journeys, and all of those things can teach one thing or two things to a person watching and listening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Junaid, for sharing such a backstory. And it's very interesting. I have so many questions, and I would like to understand what goes into your process. Like if somebody approaches you because you are into a virtual, like you are helping in certain cases, there might be a physical on-site visit, and in certain cases there might be a virtual onboarding process. So how does it work? Can you just tell us a bit about your process?
Absolutely. The process is very simple. It's similar to how you would bring somebody on to work with you on different parts of your business. And what I do is I first do an assessment. We'll do a little assessment call. You share photos and space and, your thought process of what you're thinking that you want to do with your space, or what are your goals for the next 5 years? Where do you want to take this? So I take in all that information, and then based on if we agree to work together, then I'll have you scan your room with a 3D application, or a LiDAR application, which then gives me the dimensions and, where are all of the stuff in your room, so that I can then translate into recommendations. So I get a virtual layout from you, or even dimensions of your room, and what you have in there based on pictures and videos. And I can then recreate that room in a 3D software to then give you recommendations. Here's how the room you have currently, and then here are the 3 different recommendations that you can move stuff around. And then based on those recommendations, I also recommend gear so that people know exactly what camera to use, what settings the camera needs to be, right? And then how far does a microphone needs to be? My microphone is about a fist from me, so you can hear me nice and clear. And the reason for why all of this stuff works is because, number one, it's all physics, right? If you work in the confinements of science and physics, you can recreate that same scenario no matter where you are. You probably heard of the Diary of a CEO, the popular podcast. The Diary of a CEO has 5 podcast studios all over the world. They have 5 separate podcast studios, but they
It
look
all looks almost
exactly the
similar.
same, right? They
Eh,
they did that on purpose because they want the audience to connect with the set, connect with the people talking, but then they can be flexible in, like, for example, Stephen Bartlett met Johnny from the Mr. Beast in LA. Stephen Bartlett is from UK. They have a studio in
Yeah.
UK, they have a studio in LA, they have one in New York, all of these different places so that they can show up, have the conversation, and connect with that audience with that repeatable process.
Wow, that is very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense because you look at all these episodes, it actually looks very similar. So, who are you working with currently? Who are you targeting? Is it just YouTubers and podcasters, or do you know that you can also have a space where product videos can be shot through a home studio, right? So, are you also looking at that dimension?
Absolutely. So I'm working with all sorts of people in all walks of life. Now, people who are creating YouTube content and podcasting, and they're in the beginning journey, they have a lot more time. So they can spend that time to learn and figure out the things. So I have some video content for them specifically so that they can learn and continue that process. Now, people that I really work with have no time. They're like, hey, I know what I want. This is the look that I want to achieve. Please come and create this space for me. So I'll work with those folks, those businesses and entrepreneurs, because they value their time. They want the high end quality output. So again, I work with all walks of life, right? So I have multiple different packages as well, starting from virtual to in-person setup, but I make sure to accommodate as many folks as possible. I've written a book called The 7 Stages of Home Studio Evolution. Again, talks and walks anybody looking to get started to say, hey, do I want to start with my smartphone camera? Do I want to start with a decent camera? All right, so I have different stages. So you have the novice level, you have the hobbyist, the enthusiast, the expert, the pro. So all of the different levels help them understand, okay, where am I and what do I need to do to get started? Because here's the fun fact, Naveen. When I started podcasting, I used my smartphone and I use it in my car to record those first 100 episodes.
Oh my God.
Right? That got me to, work on myself. It got me to work with the technology that I already had. Got me to show up repeatedly every single day so that I get good at the craft. Because once you get good at the craft, then you start to see what's missing and where you can upgrade and where you can level up. Because tell you the truth, people every single day show up at TV studios to give an interview, right?
Absolutely.
All they need to work on is
Absolutely.
themselves, right? They work on themselves. The gear, the studio doesn't matter. It's all about personal development. And that's what I've seen help me with this podcasting journeys is the personal development. The reason I say start with what you have is because you eliminate all of the excuses from getting started.
How do you see the industry changing? Like, you have been doing this for so many years, and where do you see, where is the industry currently going right now? Because there's so many tech, there's AI platforms which allow you to record as well as post production and then even distribution. So where do you see the industry is going?
I mean, that's a great question. And AI tools are, they're prolific versions of the platform. They're continually improving. Every 3 months, there's a major update on all these platforms, and everybody's trying to catch up, right? And that's going to continue happen till the end of time. What's not happening is the personal growth. So we need to focus on our personal growth, because if we just keep watching what everybody else is doing, and don't do anything on our deliverability, on how we speak, on how we communicate, that the better, however high technology there's available, it's not going to help you because you haven't worked on yourself. A cyclist
Absolutely. Personal
can buy the
development is
most.
the most priority.
Oh my God, Navil, that's exactly it. Personal development is the number one thing, because you and I can both go to a cycling store and we can both buy a $10,000 bike. But who's going to last on it for the 100 miles or the 50 miles? The person who's done the work of building their stamina, of building their ability to continue to ride that bike. So that's personal development, that's physical development, right? All of those things are so important, because technology can be a crux or it could be a blessing, right? So now that I have this clean, sharp looking studio, I can create 10 to 20 video pieces and feed it to AI. And now I can use AI to then create hundreds more content pieces, because I have this number one thing, which is the setup finalized and cleared and sharp. So now I'm accelerating and helping the technology available to me to create even better content for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very interesting. Junaid, what really got you into design? What inspired you to come into a design industry or a profession?
Absolutely. So it was long time ago. I was 11 years old. We were celebrating Eid, and everybody's getting Eid handed like dollars and whatnot. And one of my uncles were like, "Hey, if you give me $1, I'll give you this camera." So that's the first time that I was handed a camera device that I can capture photos. So 11, I was 11 years old. I was really fascinated. So that kept me that basically pulled me into the tech space. Growing up in the 80s, we're all so fond of watching these TV shows like Robotech or Knight Rider, and so many like tech-based shows were around, which also pulled me in. And then I think when I was about 13 or 14, my dad he bought us a PC in our home. Now, we had access to PCs at school, but when you have one at home, you're even more intrigued. So when I finally moved to the States, I was like, hey, I want to learn more about computers, continue to learn more. I went to school to learn about graphic design, networking, web design, and as I kept going deeper and deeper, it just kept opening more and more curiosity bubbles inside of me as I went deeper into that passion.
So wonderful, and you followed your passion till now. You're following it. I believe that's going to be your end
Absolutely.
goal itself. One final question, Junaid. What principle do you drive yourself with? Like, is there any principle or is there any idea that you follow in doing the business and not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life?
Navin, I love that question because the stronger our why, the more dedication, the more discipline we will assign to what we do with our lives. And my why is to create a pathway for my kids. So I'm a father of 4 kids, and I want to show them that anything that they put their mind to is possible. And when we do that, it's an ongoing personal development for me, as well as showing up authentically and showing up as their parent, as somebody who cares to them as well. So when I do that, drives me to excel the best way that I know that I can, and continue to grow by bringing in mentors, by bringing in other thought leaders in my circle, and continue to learn from these people. And I mean, that's why I've had 800 plus conversations with industry experts, because I'm learning from them. Right, I'm learning from them, and I'm creating this platform to then share the conversation as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Junaid. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining our channel today. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Navin, thank you, Sag. You're welcome, and thank you for the invite. Super excited to be here, and all the best to the listeners. I love it.